Yes, it's going great. I want to welcome you. I was talking with you earlier. I said you look healthy and got some great color. And so then when you were sharing about your experience, I think it's a great entree into what we want to talk about.
Right. So let's jump into it. We were chatting a little bit about a story. So you asked me what I did this weekend, and I was telling. So for the rest of the audience, what did I do this weekend? I went down to I'm in Costa Rica, and there's a place called Nasara. So Nasara is very rustic and very cool. But the reason we went down was to see the sea turtles laying eggs and hopefully the little babies hatching and taking off into their new world and their new life. And it was an incredible experience. Obviously, being in nature is an incredible experience, but it really got me sort of thinking. And I was going to ask you, and I was going to relate it to this, but they were sharing some of the stats. So these giant sea turtles, right, that are born on that beach 15 years prior, and they make it off, they will come back 15 years later to lay their eggs, which is quite extraordinary. They've never been back. They just know that's the place to go to at a very specific time, and a very specific nature. So they come and they lay their eggs, and if you're very lucky, right, you would have seen 40 days prior, 55 days prior, the previous round of turtles that came laid their eggs. These ones were hatching, and they were sharing with us that every 1,000 that hatch, only one or two of them survive, which is,
Jeez.
yeah, like it's you got to think about like what does it take to survive, to be the one or the two to survive, just everything. And what you saw there were like birds and dogs, and like the odds are against you. And I thought about this as business, in business terms. I thought about this as us business owners, us entrepreneurs, us leaders, us people in these sales roles, really sort of driving revenue and outbound. What do you think it takes to be successful? So I wanted to ask you this talking human, and if we now relate this to business, Mike, let me ask you this the question that got us started, which is, if we're like these little baby sea turtles, right? And it's going to be one or two of us that are going to make it in business. What do you think it takes to be that one or two? I know it's a loaded question, but what do you think? What would be
Yeah.
something?
First, first, who's the guy that's the big podcaster?
Greg Witz?
Greg Witz, and also you're the other big podcaster. That
Joe Rogan?
Joe Rogan, yeah, Greg Witz and Joe Rogan. I think they go hand in hand.
Fair, yeah,
Um,
right?
I love that he's got his assistant, so they just talk about something that comes up. They're like, put those stats up.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just looking as you were talking about the turtles, the stats. Approximately 20% of new businesses fail in the first 2 years, 45% during the first 5 years, 65% during the first 10, and only 25% make it after 15 years.
Wow.
So a little better odds than those little turtles, but still pretty rough odds.
Right. But that would say
So
a total of 65% of people that start businesses don't make it past 10 years.
right, yeah, yeah. I mean, look, I've had I can speak firsthand. I've had businesses that did not make it. I pivoted, which is the term for like kind of taking a licking and keep on ticking, which I think perseverance is crucial. But then learning from your mistakes, you gotta actually, if something's not working at some point, you've gotta, and if you put in the effort, like that's really the key. You gotta be unstoppable for some period of time, a long period of time. But then at one point or another, it's great if you have a coach, because a lot of you can't coach yourself. You know this.
Right.
God made us like that because we're each a piece of the creator. So the creator can't criticize the creator. That's why I always tell you what you see, and people are mirroring back your stuff. That they're a tool for you. They're a tool for us.
Mm-hmm.
So in business, man, you get 200,000, $500,000 in, and it's not profitable, and you just you just want to keep going. But at some point, you need someone that's going to really understand business and care for you to be able to sit you down and say, look, this model is not working. So I
Mm-hmm.
had that. I actually built a wealth management company in the late 1990s and early 2000s with, thankfully, John Asseroff was my business coach. But anyway, I lost $1 million. I shouldn't say I lost. I invested $1 million that didn't turn out in that business. It was, well, so many different events occurred that just took me off of what was supposed to
Right.
happen.
Right.
And then basically he just pulled me aside. He's like, dude, all right, you need to do something different. It's not give up. You just need to do something different. So you have to have a coach.
Hmm.
You got to have someone that can look at it with fresh eyes, that has experience, that not worried about
Yeah.
hurting your feelings, to tell you like what's up.
Right. And in some regards, I think what you just said there is, if you're lucky enough to have a coach, right? Because in a lot of cases, you could have the wrong coach or not have a coach at all. And it's our ultimate responsibility as individuals to maybe figure this out and start to recognize some of those cues. Like, man, this is not working. And as you said, pivoting is just saying this one wasn't working, and let me try to go at it again with maybe a little bit of a different approach, right? um Back to the little baby sea turtles, right? It's kind of the same thing. There are associations that are out there to help protect the baby sea turtles as they hatch, because what's coming at them are these birds, right, gobbling them up. There's dogs, right? There's everything. That's a joke about growing up in South Africa. Everything's trying to kill you, right? It's kind of the same thing. And that's what business is like. In a lot of cases, like you've got these extended resources and helps, but those aren't going to be the ones that save you. It's what you do with that coaching and assignments and guidance and moving forward, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's look, there's things that you can control in business, and then things that you can't. So the things that you can't are, cycles, like business cycles.
Right.
So if you just start a business and things economically are fine, and then 6 months in we end up in a recession, that's going to make it tough. Should you have enough cash flow when you start every business to weather a 1 year recession? No, because no one's going to be able to stash that kind of cash away. Not, and also it's not, it's not your best allocation of assets. Just have something sit there for a rainy day,
Right.
and a rainy days come once a decade. They're unknowable. So there's a balance between risk and reward. There's some things that you can't control, and then there's some things that apparently you think you can, but you can't. Like when I launched my business, I pulled the woman who trained me in the stock market in 1987 from an organization that she had been with the entire time, like 18 years. She was like the number one trainer in the world for stockbrokers in the world. She's been doing it for like 16 and 18 years. So many people graduated from her and went on to have successful $1 million practices. She's amazing. And so I wasn't going to go at this alone. And I brought her in, and I paid her a bunch of money, which is complete burn, right? So I I
Mhm.
wanted her. She was used to making a lot of money, but I knew that, if I brought her over, like she could be the one that would be great at training the sales force and building this. So we did. And so I had a huge burn rate because there's office space, which in New York City I needed to scale. And then her, and then we gave small base salaries to these salespeople. We had 18 people. And a year in, as we're starting to get it dialed in, she comes up to me and she says, I'm done. And I was just like, what do you mean you're done? It's like, I don't know how much was in then. It
All
was
this money, right? Yeah, like
a
that's a
lot.
lot of money.
And we built a wealth management company. I was deep into putting together all the investments. We had all these amazing hedge fund opportunities for the customers. So then she did leave. I thought I could do it all myself. Huge mistake. I should have just basically, there was two people at the time that were good. I should have just let 16 go, took a much smaller office, and then just said, okay, I'm small and doing the same thing, and then try to figure it out. But even that seemingly where you can control, you can't.
Right. Right. I heard what you said there, which was, I think it's more important that maybe, the comment of, if you want to go fast, you go by yourself. If you want to go far, you go with others. The challenge with others is sometimes, as your story is you hire these individuals. They're super expensive. They're meant to accomplish all these things, and it doesn't happen, right? Which is just part of the journey and stuff. But, in some regards, I do believe you can go it out at your own. In fact, in my biggest successes have come from my individual going, I'm just going to go at this myself. However, that's not sustainable, right? And I'm not preaching to go it at you alone. What I am maybe saying is, it's really important that while you're going at it alone, you're asking for help, right? And that can be help from coaches and support and network, and even hiring amazing talent to join you and help you along the way. And
Yeah.
then what we got to do is we got to keep sort of feeding that group. I've spoken about this for a while with Witz. You know, my dream with Witz is to build a community. That's what it is. Great community that just gives and contributes and teaches and learns. And you know, I've got, and for me, I got to tell you, it's starting to manifest. Like I've got this thing coming up in February, which I'll share more about a little later. But man, the people that are coming together to put this thing together, I'm just like, holy shit! Like this is amazing, right? And it's what it's about. This is the mentality of like going far with others, right? So cool,
Hmm.
cool.
Yeah.
You know, like little
And
baby turtles, right? We could take the help of swatting away the birds.
yeah, but just to go just a little deeper from, to get into to the business side of this a little bit, so you and I have both been, in similar paths and similar journeys, and been the one that's doing the lion's share for our companies, and then try to hire and to leverage and scale, and not be the one doing lion's share of the day to day, but being able to, work on vision and bigger things and strategic partnerships and global events. And, you know, the the decision to hire and scale. Now, this is my new way of looking at it. The decision to hire and scale, because you're what we just said is you're taking a risk, right? If you start to say, okay, I'm gonna scale, scale only comes with money. That means you're going to be spending a shitload of money on people and advertising and funnels, copywriting, everything that's in salespeople. So you need a package.
This was our first conversation.
You need a package. So if you're going to step up and say, okay, I'm ready to, put that package in place, and then, take on another 20 or 40 or $50,000 a month in expenses. Now, I really believe that either one, you've got to have, at least a minimum of 6 months of that burn in the bank,
Agreed.
because you need a runway. You can't be pressurized that all of a sudden, just as they're sort of hitting stride, and there goes your capital, and then you're like, oh shit. So that's one thing. Or you got to raise money, and it's okay, because a lot of younger companies in every cycle raise money, but you need to raise. The big mistake is not raising nearly enough. If you're going to raise money, because you can't often go back and raise money, you should raise, 2 years worth of that burn, because the worst mistake is not raising enough. Because if you don't raise enough and you start burning through that money, you come from a complete point of weakness to try to raise more money, and it screws with your progression of the growth of the capital. Because if you raise money, people are investing, they want to see the company scale for either a sale, a joint venture, or an exit. So if you can't execute on the first raise, you put the projections of the entire company into jeopardy. I know about that.
Right. And,
Yeah. So,
and to your point, I think this is also very specific. This is we're not making blanket statements, which is like, oh, all businesses have to do this and all industry has to do this. But we're talking about the wealth management company and one way of scaling that, right? But yeah, you got to be careful, because if we're not careful with the burn rate, it becomes exactly what the defined word is, which is it's a burn rate. Whoosh, money's gone. And now it's like, well, what are we left over with, right? So I love what you said, which was like, if the exercise is raising money, then, make sure that you're doing that into a state which has got long-term future, because the last thing you want to do is run out of that capital and that opportunity as your team is starting to hit that stride, right?
yeah, you need a runway, and it's because I've been in digital marketing for like 17 or 18 years and consulted with a lot of people, and the big consumption of capital comes in advertising. And the big mistake people make is they don't give it the runway. You need a comfortable runway to do all the testing and optimization, not under duress.
That
And that's
is a challenge, though. For the small business, that's the big challenge. For years, I've done this, which is like marketing company. All right, we could scrounge together 20, 30K. Let's run some at that, right? And it burns out at 90 days. And you've got nothing to show for it. And at the end of the day, yeah, I've always said this: never spend money in order to make money. And what I mean by that is, there's a saying, spend money in order to make money. In some cases, what we tend to do is we need to have that money first, right? We need to go get those sales before we start to spend on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you would do that if after you have one business channel working. You have
Correct.
one business channel, then you want to add a second business channel, then that's when you would take it on. But the thing I'll share is the big, um, that's also a generalization, and probably people will argue with this, but the major problem with online advertising agencies is that they don't take responsibility for results. So their responsibility for results is I will spend your money. They
Right.
take responsibility. I will spend your money. Okay, great. What kind of result are you going to get me? Oh no, that's not. We just do the advertising. Well, where you're going to advertise? Like, where is the traffic going to go? Well, you need a landing page, or you need some kind of webinar. You need to take someone to capture those people and put them into a funnel. Okay, so okay, I'll go get that done. So you get like a landing page copywriting person, and then you're running traffic and it's going in there, and then who's tracking what's happening? Well, the advertising people are saying, "Oh, you're getting 12 cents a click and
Right.
$300 a lead," and
Right.
I'm saying, "Okay, that's great, but I'm doing a webinar that just cost me $5,000 and I get 20 people that showed."
Right. Right.
So
This is a
then,
challenge, and there's a lot of noise out there. So, like, even cutting through all of it is difficult.
well, yet the problem is you have to know this inside and out. You have to find a GM or an organization that will take the end-to-end responsibility. That's that. If you want to find an ad agency that you can count on, you take the one that says, "Okay, we're going to do your ads, we're going to do your landing page, and we're going to track to the appointment or the sale,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to optimize. We're going to optimize that entire segment."
Mm-hmm.
Because without that, it's going to be, like you're building a house and the wallpaper guy does a crappy job and he blames it on the sheetrocker.
Right.
Because
Right. Right.
there's a
Right.
crack.
I think so.
Crack under there. The sheetrocker should have put a straight wall up.
Right. No, I
Have you
like
been
that.
there?
Yeah. No, someone that like goes end to end. In fact, it's just as you were saying that, a couple of my clients are those types of businesses where they don't take on a client unless it's from beginning to the end. And I was just chatting with this other individual on my other podcast where he ended up starting. That's how his agency grew. Started out just making sort of the video, and then he was like, look, you know what, we can't just do this, we need to take the entire process, and then we need the marketing piece on that. And in order for us to be successful doing what we do, we need to control the beginning, the middle, and the end, because at that point we can know what we do and how we do it and guarantee that result. So good. It's a good business model.
Yeah. I mean, it is, and it's because it's what's needed. It's a complicated business. It's not. It's technically not complicated to produce a YouTube ad or any individual ad, but there's so many inflection points you have to get right. So it's like getting a lot of these dials right.
Correct.
And if you don't get them right, then you end up with very poor results.
Right.
So I'm seeing the same thing now with my LinkedIn agency. So as you may or may not know, who's ever watching this, but so I'm running a LinkedIn content marketing lead gen agency. So we started out, our promise was, or we're going to get people, big visibility on LinkedIn, staked as a thought leader. And that's what I did with my own business. And I ended up with multiple millions of views of my content. Now, organically, I've been selling since 1987. I'm a salesperson. So I know what to do. I take visibility, turn it to conversations, turn it to appointments and sales. So what I ended up finding out after 6 months, people were like, "Oh, this is great, but what do I do? Or how do I turn this into money?" I'm like, "Oh my, really? Okay." So then I built a piece that was, okay, how do you take this and then add on this and then add on this? And it's a slow process. It's kind of unknowable until you get into your business, and then you try to, I call it the friction points, try to figure out where the friction points that people are experiencing when they are working with you, and then try to add in additional services to eliminate the friction.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about how does that show up in
Yeah,
your business?
well, no, I mean, I think to what was I going to say? I was going to say, as you were sharing that, the thing that jumped out to me was process. Like all of this stuff is a process, right? And look, for me as well, I mean, I think what we heavily rely on in our business, and it's just the nature of what we do, is referral. Like almost like up to 99% of our business can come up from referral, because what we do requires a lot of explanation, right? I don't sell a widget that says this is what you do. Like we do programming and coaching, and there's a lot of dialogue and conversation around that, right? To explain sort of the process and how we get there. Um, but to your point, from a sales standpoint, if we only rely on that, it's problematic, right? Because you're sitting around waiting. So yeah, me too. I've been a born salesman from day one, right? The ability to turn a conversation into an op, and turn that op into a close, and then turn that close into a long-term relationship. And hopefully, if we could do those things, it's great. That being said, if we come back to the original of it, the odds are against us to do any of this well. Digital marketing, sales, leadership, running a business, so, staying around long enough. Year 1, year 3, year 7, year 10, year 15. I mean, those are big markers to get to, right? And if we are going to maybe have somewhat of a chance, if we are going to have some sort of success, it's going to come because we ask for help. We don't go it alone. We lean and surround ourselves with better golfers. We learn from our mistakes. We pivot, we adjust. That's what you were talking about. You figure out those friction points, and you're like, there it is. That's what we got to do. We got to round this edge over here so we could smooth. But it's a forever game. It's a never-ending game, right? And I love what you talked about before, which is we hire these people so we could go work on bigger, badder sort of things, which is like vision and global partnerships and strategy and stuff. I find every time I do that and I take my sort of foot off the gas, like it's problematic. So in some regards, maybe we need to be jugglers as business owners. We need to do both of those things at the same time. Maybe that's sort of the truth to it.
Yeah, well, it's certainly the truth. Depends on where you're at. If you have an organization that's less than 20, I'm guessing the founder or the CEO is juggling a lot. And then to make it to 100 people, you probably have to have a pretty good team around you. So hopefully the team or the team heads or leads are doing a lot of the great work and sort of helping you manage a bigger umbrella. And then, of course, as you move up to enterprise, it's good and bad. I mean, because then you end up with trust in other people, and you're hoping that they're going to be able to perform the way you want. We have a couple clients that are in the leadership space, and like I never heard about these things called silos, which are like self-inflicted little circles that the manager keeps their people in, and like there's competition even inside of the organization. Like, da, 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 da. I mean, that's what you're dealing with. But I was like, Jesus,
Yeah,
I
that happens all the time.
want to stay small. I don't want any silos.
Right, but that's what happens. You end up with these sort of different cultures within one culture. I mean, it's almost like, as you're talking, you've got like this. Hopefully, you, as you said, you grow enough where you bring in department heads, executives that run that group, and they're your team, right? And they're sort of representative of the next team below them. And maybe as I was thinking that happens, what you end up doing is you create a team within a team, right? So this team is responsible for looking after that team. Okay, cool. And the larger you grow, the more you start to see these silos, because marketing says this is who we are, and sales says, well, fuck you, this is who we are. And an operation say, no, we don't like either of you guys because the way you do things, right,
Screws
disrupts
up our life.
process. So please, like, F off. And finance loves. So you start to get, and it's a little bit of like sort of like attracts like. And one of the things we got to be very careful of, and maybe we chat about this next Monday, is as our organization grows, we open ourselves up to more potential challenges with things like silos, different cultures, personality. Like this is where HR comes in.
Yeah.
Right?
But that's also where Talking Human comes in.
Correct.
Right? It's Talking Human. It's the ability to, I guess, the more people, the more communication. You can't have less, because people are going to end up in their own heads.
Correct.
But
Correct.
it's one of the biggest challenges we have. As the turtles have big challenges, humans have big challenges with communication.
Correct. So on that note, and I was saying to you before, I said we're gonna officially sign off each episode with maybe a signature question. It just came to me right now, right? Because I know we hadn't finalized that. But what if we do this at the end of each episode? What if we say, okay, great little conversation. What were some of your takeaways from today? What are your departing words?
We're asking this for the audience so they can actually
No,
message us in
I'm
LinkedIn.
asking you, and you're gonna ask me, and then we're gonna sign off.
Departing words. Departing words is we pray for these turtles. We love these turtles. And keep those birds away, number one. Number two, if you're listening to this and you are running your own business, then every morning is that you're in business is a good day, and just try to grow and learn. I'm fascinated by the amount of great quality information that's out there. Pick your people. Make sure they're very successful. It's like it brings up a story. My wife is she likes the digital currencies, Bitcoin, and this. We really don't own any of it, whatever it might be. But anyway, when it was going up, every time it's going up, she has FOMO, fear of missing out. It's huge. And so it was like at 5,000, it went to 12, went to 18, and then she's like, we got to buy it. And so I'm like, it went from 5 to 18, we got to buy it. So when it's under 5, you can buy it. She's never going to be there. So they went under 5, and it sat there for like 6 months. She didn't buy it. And then it started going back up again. And so she bought some at like 12, whatever. Anyway, very small amount. So I see her, and she's interested. So she's learning, and she's on YouTube, and this guy's got these charts, and he's like, this is what you got to do with Bitcoin. Da, 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 da. So in my background is Wall Street, and I used to handle people's money, but I'm a non-believer of charts. They're a great looking backward, but going forward, if they really work, then Goldman Sachs will be worth 10 trillion instead of 1 trillion.
That's why
So
they
anyway,
call
this
it
guy
projections.
is looking at these charts, and she's like, well, what do you think? I said, well, who's the guy? Where is he? Where did it come from? He's made a lot of money on Bitcoin. Oh, yeah, and what was he doing? And the guy was a plumber. And he made money on Bitcoin. And now he was a technical professional giving advice, which, first of all, you're not supposed to be giving trading advice online, which is really investment advice is against the law. But anyway, so I'm like, all right, look, if the guy came from Goldman Sachs or Merrill, and he ran $1 billion portfolio in equities, and he's now running on the other side of digital assets, and he's got a lot of experience with up and down markets, then sure, there's something to be learned. So that's the other piece. There's great people out there. Find someone that's very successful in doing what you want to do, or in a parallel business, and it's a constant, as you said earlier, constant learning. Mm-hmm. So those are my takeaways.
That's good. That's good.
Yours. I can ask you.
Oh, yes. No, I'm waiting.
All right, Witz. Come on, Witz. Give me your.
So my takeaways from today is, as business leaders and owners and entrepreneurs, we are the one or two turtles that make it. Now, if we thought that was the battle's just begun, right? Because now we got a whole different world or sea to contend with. So hopefully along the way we find a little Nemo, as you were saying, friends. Know what you don't know, and know how important it is for us to, in some cases, unlearn what we've learned in order to learn what we need to learn. And right, and we live in a world now where, failure is promoted and it's also criticized, right? Like, you should fail. Why did you fail? Right? And people are not letting themselves actually go through the process of growth, which requires failure, right? It requires discomfort, requires us to be stressed. So my takeaways today is, or my departing words are, as I said earlier, be the little baby sea turtle, and we'll see you back in 15 years.
See you back in 15 years. The first time they come back, huh?
First time they come back to lay their eggs. Right? It's an incredible experience. Anyway, you know what? I think each week, and I love what you said here, which is also, just make sure that you're getting people around you.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're right. It's not easy to find a coach, but you you can find one. There's good people, but just make sure you do, like anything, do your due diligence,
Right.
right? Check referrals. But there's great people. I mean, this is the world. Thought leadership is here.
Right.
Everyone has the ability to help someone else that doesn't know as much as them. And it's your job as a learner, a continual learner, to find the right people to learn from.
Correct. Talking humans with Witz and Weiss. It's
You
been
gonna
an.
hit us with some music? Some of those
You
hit
want?
those buttons? Yeah.
As long as I can hit the right button. Let me try this one.
Nice. All right, over and out, everyone. Have a great week. See you next Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern.